Hello and welcome on today's podcast. I am joined with two beautiful ladies, Jodie and Paris from Adaptogen Apothecary. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, and thank you for having us. Hello.
So can you just tell us a little bit about apothecary and the history of it? And what it actually means, because I know the word is used quite a lot, but I think that a few people maybe don't know the meaning behind it. So could you just explain that?
We can. So apothecary is the traditional word for what now we know as a chemist. So a long time ago, our ancestors would have used an apothecary to go and find natural health and well-being solutions. And the adaptogenic apothecary is the business we've created because we work predominantly with adaptogens, and we use a very traditional approach to well-being and health.
Yeah. And if we look at our ancestors back in history, they, like you said, they were like the original chemists. They would all use natural products from the earth, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have done. I mean, for every ailment, nature has the answer for it. It's just that this knowledge has been lost in the modern world that we live in. So adaptogens have been used for thousands of years across very ancient cultures and civilizations. As you know, modern medicine and pharmaceuticals came along, their use and the way that humans as well behaved would be more to go to a doctor rather than a natural doctor. And of course, there's a place for that. You know, if you have got into a car accident and broken your leg, you probably want to be heading to the hospital. You know, you probably don't want to be taking an adaptogen at that point. Of course, you can take it afterwards to help with your healing. But as this knowledge has really been lost, you know, we're really kind of looking to educate and bring the knowledge back, because our personal experience and our growing kind of tribe of users find that adaptogens are extremely powerful healers, and they don't have side effects that perhaps pharmaceuticals have.
Yeah, I find the whole thing really fascinating because it is a lost ancestral wisdom, really, that we have become separated from over thousands of years, and we've relied on, you know, the pharmaceutical industry rather than nature itself.
Yeah.
And nature has so much wisdom and healing in it as well, and as you mentioned, it doesn't have those side effects, and you know what you're taking. You know, what I really like about this is, you know, the substances of the materials that are in the products. And, you know, because it's coming from nature, you know exactly what it is. Like if I was to go and get some tablets from the chemist, I would have no idea what was in those tablets.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's really cool. So it's directly from nature as well. Why do you think that we lost that connection originally?
I think there's probably a number of reasons why that connection's been lost over the last 100 years in particular. But you know, humans were doing really well using medicinal mushrooms, adaptogens and herbs to support their health. And in kind of modern times, when the Industrial Revolution took hold, and pharmaceuticals just grew so quickly, I think that, you know, women started to be more in the workplace and less at home, and the women were quite often the knowledge keepers. So that it was the women of the tribe or the family that really understood how to work with nature and how to harness health from nature. And I think as women kind of moved out of that role and more into an industrial workplace role, you know what modern life is like. You want a quick solution if someone in your family's sick, so you just go to a chemist and get, you know, something to cover up the problem. perhaps, rather than looking for the root cause
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with it naturally. So I think that kind of coincided with the explosion in pharmaceutical industry.
Mm-hmm.
That became very profitable and
Powerful.
very powerful. And yeah, I think the natural messages just got lost along the way, and they perhaps weren't as profitable.
Yeah, definitely. And the narrative changed, hasn't it? Oh, especially over the last 100 years. So where people are getting their knowledge from, it's not from the wise woman or the great grandma in the family. They're getting their knowledge possibly from the news, which we know is funded a lot by industries, you know, and the pharmaceutical industry is super powerful. It's super influential. It can create policies, you know, depending on what they're trying to push, can go all the way down to your doctor, who's only looking at your symptoms and then looking to give you something to help with your symptoms, but not looking at the holistic you and your entire body. And that's one reason that we love adaptogens so much, is that they work on an endocrine system level. So especially, like, probably one of the most famous adaptogens is ashwagandha. Most people have probably heard of that. It's the herb of peace and quiet. And it works on your endocrine system level to just reduce stress within your body. So it doesn't matter where that stress is coming from, whether it's external, whether it's internal, it will reduce it. So, you know, it's really way more powerful than if you were going to the doctor and asking for, I don't know, an anti-anxiety solution that would then have a number of side effects with it, and would just perhaps cover up that anxiety, but perhaps create 6 other problems that you then perhaps might need medicine for.
Yeah, and then you just end up with a cabinet full of medicine from the pharmacy. Yeah,
that happens all the time. There are glimmers of hope. I was reading the other day that in Italy and Spain, doctors there have started prescribing the use of medicinal mushrooms. So just to kind of clarify what an adaptogen is, it's a special class of a herbal mushroom or root that they work very synergistically together, and they work, like Paris was saying, at a molecular level. And so they help to restore the balance in your hypothalamic, pituitary and adrenal glands. So there are plenty of clinical data out there showing that these work on a cellular level. You can see it in a lab, it's provable. So there is no reason really, other than profit, for a doctor to be avoiding this or to be ignoring this as a natural system.
Well, we
and
did
I also, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, we did have a lady recently come to us, and she had told us she was suffering with menopausal symptoms, and her doctor had told her to go and find some mushrooms. So there is knowledge that is kind of getting out there. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's really positive when people come to us and say, oh, my GP's actually told me to go and look for some mushrooms to help with my symptoms.
And that's the other thing, that when women start taking our products, or anyone's for that matter, adaptogens, my view is that our bodies remember. So we are from our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, that lineage, it remembers. And when you take these medicines that reconnect you to Mother Nature, they're coming from the ground, it's a very powerful shift. You feel that shift almost instantly, and your body feels very receptive and then wanting of that medicine, or the mushrooms. And so for us, it's obviously a daily habit. It's something that I live by. It's a ritual every morning that I do, and my body responds so well to it. I can't imagine ever not taking adaptogens every day. So the feedback, we launched the company in February, so we're 7 months in, but the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. The 2 products we've launched with actually are female specific. So we've got a large fast growing group of women who are saying, you know, this is really helping with me, my perimenopause, my menstrual cycle, wherever they are in their menopause journey, helping with stress, anxiety, sleep, libido. You know, it's brilliant. It's really wonderful to hear.
I think it's just so amazing that we have these resources literally at our fingertips from nature. And our ancestors used to use this, you know, but it's become foreign to us. And now it's people, we have to almost reconvince people that they work, even though it's actually so scientific if you look at the cause and the effects, you know, of how they work within the body. And this is all from nature, which is a free resource to all of us, which obviously makes sense why it has been lost. I don't think there's any question about, you know, the fact that this has been an accident, that we've lost this connection to this free resource. But I think it's really lovely that you're bringing this information back into the world and sharing it with people, especially women. And you've recently won an award, haven't you?
We did. We just got the highly commended award from the Health and Beauty Awards this year, and that was for Harmony, which is the product we launched with actually back in February.
So you say a bit about why we launched that product?
Yeah, should we give you a bit of a background? So Paris and I, obviously, we're sisters, and a couple of years back I started feeling terrible every month just after my ovulation period. So post ovulation I was getting probably 8, 9, 10 days where I just felt off, really just not myself, very full of rage, bad mood, angry. And
it wasn't pretty.
It wasn't pretty. And it was very unusual because I just kind of thought, oh my God, I'm getting PMT for the first time in my life. But it wasn't really like PMT because it was mid-cycle, it was post ovulation, and then it kind of cleared just as my period was due. And so I was trying all kinds of things, and I naturally shy away from pharmaceutical options unless it's absolutely necessary. And in terms of hormone solutions, we've got breast cancer history in our family, so HRT for us is not an option. So I was trying all kinds of natural things and nothing really was working until I started taking ashwagandha, and it felt just so intuitive and natural and almost like a miracle herb. It just made me, it just took that dark mood away and got rid of the kind of angry, anxious, ragey feelings that I was having. And so I spoke to Paris about it, who at the time you were having peri.
Yeah, so I had always had a really good and healthy cycle and never suffered with any kind of hormonal symptoms at all. But perimenopause hit me very hard. So I started getting like, I mean, I reckon I had 101 perimenopause symptoms that just were fleeting, from bizarre things like a burning tongue, which stayed with me for 2 months, to heart palpitations at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would wake up and be wide awake and then fall asleep just before my alarm clock went off. So the next day was ruined. I started to feel anxious driving. I've never had any anxiety in my life at all, especially not with driving. I love driving. I've driven to Morocco before. I've driven across America. I love a road trip. So these symptoms just bubbling up inside of me, making me feel like, who is this person? You know, is this what aging is like? Because I really don't like it. You know, Jodie and I we do a lot of things for our health and mental health, like we sea swim, we meditate, we do yoga, but none of that was stopping any of this. That just felt like it was overwhelming me. Doctors suggested all sorts of things like beta blockers for the heart palpitations, you know, HRT for general perimenopause symptoms, and I was just like, I can't take any of this. Jodie then mentioned she'd been taking ashwagandha, so I tried it. Lo and behold, I start sleeping through the night, you know, start feeling better. Then we started like experimenting with lots of adaptogens and mushrooms,
because my symptoms were so clearly related to my menstrual cycle. It was like clockwork, day 15 every single month, boom, I was in a bad mood. And so then we started chatting about it and saying, well, it seems to me that ashwagandha is necessary for me from day 15 to day 22, but I don't feel like I need to take it for the rest of my cycle. So are there other adaptogens that I should be taking during the other phases of my cycle? Because clearly my body is doing something very different for each of the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. And so we did so much experimenting, didn't we, with adaptogens, herbs, mushrooms, and trying to, you know, it was quite fun. But you know, we don't, at that time we were just unsure, like which thing does what and when should we be taking it. So at that point we enlisted the help of Sarah Rooney, who is one of the UK's leading female hormone health specialists. So she's actually a medical herbalist based in Brighton, and we went and spoke to her and said, look, it seems to us that it would make sense that because women have 4 distinct phases, probably shouldn't be taking the same supplement every day. It wouldn't make sense because our requirements change. And so we worked with her over a long period of time, and what we created together is Harmony, the product we launched with, which has 4 different adaptogenic powders in it, one for each phase of your menstrual cycle. And overall there's 22 different ingredients in that product, and they are hand selected by the medical herbalist to support your body's changing needs as you go through the cycle. So what that means is it's a very strategic use of adaptogens. It's bespoke for the female body.
It's super targeted, and it just supports you fully in every phase of your cycle. So when you have like a fully supported phase, you go into the next phase in a positive way. So for example, if your ovulation phase isn't supported, lots of women might be kind of estrogen dominant during their ovulation phase. I'm one of those women. So I would generally get sore boobs around ovulation, and they would stay with me all the way through my luteal phase until I started menstruating. You know, I thought this was fairly normal. Well, it's not. It's because my body's not flushing the estrogen out effectively during that ovulation phase. So we've got ingredients that flush the
milk thistle. So milk thistle is in the ovulation blend as an example. So that really supports your liver. So it really helps your body just flush the excess estrogen away properly. So if everything is working as it should during your ovulation and you are balanced, it means that you go into luteal in a balanced way, and you shouldn't then be getting the rage that I was getting, or the sore boobs that Paris was getting,
or any kind of premenstrual symptoms.
And so this was a real like moment.
Can we just talk about those cycles? Can we can you just mention what each cycle is and to you what it represents?
So Harmony starts on day 1 of your cycle. So that's menstruation. It's day 1 of your bleed. And typically women will bleed for 4 or 5 days. So in Harmony there are 5 days worth of powders and mushrooms to support you during your bleed. So I won't list them all off, but we've got chaga in there, which is one of the most powerful antioxidants in the world. That's a medicinal mushroom. And it really helps strengthen your immune system, because when you're bleeding, you're kind of at your lowest. So this is the time when you may need to rest more. We've got raw cacao in there with high levels of magnesium, which really helps alleviate the classic PMS symptoms.
And supports the bleeding.
Ashwagandha's in there to reduce anxiety, because it's around that time of the month when typically anxiety rises in women around the period and the bleed. It helps stabilize your mood. There's nettle in there that helps remineralize your body, really useful for bleeding. There's rose.
Can we just I'm just looking at the time. We only have like 10 minutes. So I'm just thinking, can we just like, what I meant by describing the cycle is if you could literally just describe the menstrual cycle. We don't have to go through like all the ingredients. Okay. So I'll just ask you the question again. Is that okay? Because I wanted to talk about other things. So could you just describe the menstrual cycle for us and each of those 4 stages?
Yeah, so the menstrual cycle starts on day 1. So that's the first day of the bleed, and that's menstruation, which typically lasts for 4 or 5 days. And then the second phase is called follicular, and that typically lasts for 6 or 7 days. And then ovulation occurs. That happens on one day, but it's difficult to pinpoint, so we allow 3 days for ovulation, and then the remaining, say 13 or 14 days, is called luteal, and that luteal phase is the longest phase, and that leads you back round to menstruation.
So actually the ovulation is the peak of the female cycle. Most people kind of presume the event in our cycle is the menstruation when we bleed, but it's actually ovulation. So that's when we feel our best, we're flooded with good hormones, we might be having like a good hair day, a good skin day, we feel most energized. I don't want to say it goes downhill from there, but yeah. Luteal is perhaps where we start to lose our energy. So if you're cycle tracking, and we really advise that every woman does cycle track, because it really empowers you to understand the changes that your body's going through each month. But you can also start to plan your activities. So for example, I know in my follicular phase, that is a phase where I am really good at doing creative work, getting on with my planning, like just I'm on it, you know, all the way up to ovulation. That's where perhaps I might do more exercise. You know, when I start to get into luteal, I know I'm less likely to be able to pull out creative work. You know, I need to do a bit more quiet work. I'm less likely to want to do kind of hard exercise, much more likely to want to just do a meditation or a gentle yoga flow, and it really empowers me. And also I don't feel bad about it. There was times in my past where during my luteal I would push myself because I would feel like I need to be able to do this. Well, I actually don't, because I'm a woman and I change 4 times a month, so I can do it when it works for me and my cycle, and I know I can do it then.
I think that's really beautiful to understand as well for women, and I think it is empowering for women to know this, because the clock that we have been brought up to believe to be true is like 24-hour clock. It's very male in
very male.
Yeah, and it doesn't really, well, it doesn't support the female body at all. And I think we always feel like we should be acting or reacting in a certain way and pushing ourselves, whereas knowing your menstrual cycle allows you the space to relax when you need to relax and take time out when you need to take time out. And having that knowledge, I think, really can empower women, because I think it's knowing that it's okay that they don't feel great 100% of the time. And so
definitely. And hormones affect everything, right? Like they affect what we're craving to eat, you know, how we're looking, what our energy is like, how our sleep is, who we find attractive as a partner, even at what time of the month we might find them attractive. So if our hormones are all out of balance, we're out of balance, we feel off. You know, if you can get your hormones in balance, and that's, you know, partly what Harmony does, is it rebalances your hormones using really powerful adaptogens. But you do need to look at your lifestyle as well. Remove hormone disruptors as much as you possibly can. You know, nobody can really live 100% organic lifestyle in the modern world, you know, but be conscious about what you're consuming, buying, using in the kitchen, and just try to rid yourself and your life of those kind of hormone disruptors, and everything starts to feel better. You know, again, it's back to nature and back to how we were naturally meant to be living.
Yeah, Yeah, I love this so much, like the union between like the human and the nature as well. And I think it's so powerful to
Because we are
remember.
nature, you know, we are
Yeah.
nature, and there's this push that's pulled us away and tried to convince us that somehow we're separate from nature, and nature's sitting over there and we're sitting up here. Well, we're not. We actually are nature. We are one. And as you start taking adaptogens, like Jodie and I felt this pull was so powerful, wasn't it? I didn't want to say she started tree hugging a lot, but she started tree hugging a lot. It's just pull back, you know, like you just feel like this grounding.
It's really powerful.
Yeah,
it's really powerful. And just being, like I said earlier, it's become a ritual for me. I take my adaptogens every morning. I normally take it in a cacao or a warm coconut milk, and it that sense of connection of going back to, you know, I'm consuming the earth. I'm you know, it's the fungi and the herbs and the mushrooms that they're in me, they're part of me, I am them. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I really do believe that these elements of nature are here to support our health and well-being. Like that's the purpose, really, I feel.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What other products have you come up with recently?
So Harmony is for women with a natural menstrual cycle because it works so closely with the 4 phases. Soon after we launched Harmony, women got in contact with us and asked if we could do an adaptogenic powder for if you were either having irregular cycles or if you were also taking hormones, so the pill, HRT, or a coil. And so we worked again with our herbalist and created Freedom, which is a clinically proven adaptogenic powder that helps ease menopause symptoms. So women are using this instead of HRT or alongside HRT to just help with those menopausal symptoms. And then last week, we just launched our organic lion's mane, which is a combination of dual extract and the raw fruiting body of the mushroom. So that gives you a full spectrum support. So that's really helpful with cognitive enhancement, gut health, immune system. It helps reduce anxiety. So that's for men and women. Yeah, so, and there's plenty more coming.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive that you've only been doing this for, what did you say, 7 months?
7 months.
Yeah.
The thing is, it feels very much like a soul journey for us, that we kind of stumbled into something that we were supposed to be doing. So everything sort of aligned, you know, whatever you want to believe, we felt like the universe aligned for us. And yes, we can get carried away seeing signs everywhere, but I'm often looking at my phone and it's 4:44, which is telling me
11:11 every day.
that we're on the right path.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when things just flow together as well. And because I feel like you've had that kind of bang at the beginning, the reason behind starting the brand, you know, it's you've got a real passion for it as well, which I think is beautiful. I know you. Yeah, well, thank you for joining me today. It was a pleasure to have you both.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to contact you, what is the best way on social media to contact you?
Instagram or Facebook. You'll find us on both every day talking about adaptogens.
But it's really